Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen, Force over here, and welcome back to another reading stream. I know that I said I was gonna play Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door last night, but to put it simply, shit got crazy last night. Well, not technically last night, but uh, near the end, yeah, sometime near the end of my shift. It's crazy. Um, So, and also on top of, just being tired from working yesterday, it wore me out. Yep. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. But tonight, I did say I was going to be doing some reading stream for these books. Let me shut my door real quick. So you guys don't have to hear the background noise being too loud. But yeah, so this is what we're doing. Reading 4 books, not at the same time, but I will be reading 4 LGBTQ plus books to pay on in honor of Pride Month. So let's take a look at the 4 books that I bought today. The first book, which is the book I'll be reading, was actually suggested to me by a user here on YouTube. The username is not at the top of my head, but they know who they are. And that book was Loveless by Alice Oseman. If you don't know the name of this person, well, you'll see here in a little bit. Maybe it'll refresh your memory. The second book that I bought for LGBTQ plus was Suicide Notes. Probably going to be PG-13, rated R. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Next, we have Hell Followed With Us. I don't know what it was about this book that it made me think of reading it, but, I'm reading it at some point. And then, another Alice Oseman book, Heartstopper Volume 2. This is where the name should be familiar, because if you recall, a few months back, I did do a live reading stream reading Volume 1 of Heartstopper, as well as a novella based on that book series of Nick and Charlie. And while I was in the middle of looking for these books, I do see somebody commenting, but I want to finish my thought real quick. But yeah, so while I was in the middle of looking for books to read for Pride Month, I came across another Nick and Charlie novella. This one taking place during the Christmas season. So you know at least which one book I'll be reading for the Christmas season at this point. Yes, it's going to be that book in question that I'm reading up. But yeah, as you can tell, tonight I'll be reading Loveless, which basically tells the story about a young woman who is going through the A side of the LGBTQ IA plus community in both ways that you're probably thinking of. Yep. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to reading that because I have known of at least one other person that is in that same spectrum as this character in the book. As a matter of fact, she's a popular animation YouTuber. But yeah, let's take a look at the chats here. London Grimmiest. Yes, it has been a while. How have you been since I last seen you? Alright. I asked the question, but we are going to go ahead and get started with Loveless by Alice Oseman. This book was published in 2021. See, just wanted to pop in and say hi. May have a good stream. Peace. Hey, thank you. London's Grimmiest. Thank you for that. Hope you have a good rest of your night. see. If it proves so, then loving goes by haps. Some Cupid kills with arrows, some with traps. Much Ado About Nothing, William Shakespeare. Part 1. So where does... Okay. That answers my question on where part 2 comes in. So I'll probably do... Let's see... So how far would I have to go for that? Yeah, not gonna go that far. So, because it is late, I'll go ahead and do part 1 now, which is gonna be literally about that size. But I'll be doing part 2 as a whole and part 3 as a whole later on up. Like part 2 and 3 either as a whole or in 2 separate parts like I did with the last book that I read, which was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So yeah. So without further ado, let's begin. Just want to say the title again, just so we all, just because. This is Loveless by Alice Oseman. Part 1. Last Chance. I like the heart he gives me. Alright. Last Chance. There were literally 3 separate couples sitting around the fire making out at some sort of organized kissing orgy, and half of me was like, ew! And the other half was like, wow, I sure do wish that was me. To be fair, freaking goddamn glasses just does not like to work with me sometimes. Now let's try this again. Loveless by Alice Oseman. Part 1. Last Chance. There was literally 3 separate couples sitting around the fire, making out, like some sort of organized kissing orgy, and half of me was like, ew, and the other half was like, wow, I sure do wish that was me. To be fair, it's probably what I should have expected from our prom after party. I don't go to parties very often. I hadn't been aware of this actually was the culture. I retreated from the fire pit and headed back towards Hattie Jorgensen's giant country house, holding up my prom dress in one hand so I didn't trip, and dropped Pip a message. Georgia War. I could not approach the fire and retrieve the marshmallows because there were people pissing around it. Philippa Quintana. How could you betray and disappoint me like this, Georgia? Georgia War. Do you still love me, or is this the end? When I entered the kitchen and located Pip, she was leaning against a corner cupboard with a plastic cup full of wine in one hand and her phone in the other. Her tie was half tucked into her shirt pocket. Her burgundy velvet blazer was now unbuttoned, and her short curls were fluffy and loose, no doubt to all the dancing at prom. You okay? I asked. Might be a tad drunk, she said, her tortoise shell glasses slipping down her nose. And also, I do fucking love you. More than marshmallows? How could you ask me to make such a choice? I slung my arm around her shoulders, and we leaned back together against the kitchen cupboards. It was almost midnight. Music was thumping from Hattie's living room, and the sound of our classmates chatting and laughing and shouting and screaming resonated from every corner of the building. There were three separate couples making out around the fire, I said, like in unison. Kinky, said Pip. I sort of wished I was one of them. She gave me a look. Ew! I just want to kiss someone, I said, which was odd, because I wasn't even drunk. I was driving Pip and Jason home later. We can make out if you want. That wasn't what I had in mind. Well, Jason's been single for a few months now. I'm sure he'd be up for it. Shut up. I'm serious. I was serious. I really, really wanted to kiss someone. I wanted to feel a little bit of prom night magic. Tommy then, said Pip, raising an eyebrow and smiling evilly. Maybe it's time to confess. I'd only ever had a crush on one person. His name was Tommy. He was the hot boy of our school year, the one who could actually have been a model if he wanted. He was tall and skinny and conveniently attractive in a Timothy Chalamet sort of way, though I didn't really understand why everyone was in love with Timothy Chalamet. I had a theory that a lot of people's celebrity crushes were faked just to fit in. Tommy had been my crush ever since I was in year 7, and a girl had asked me, who do you think is the hottest boy at Truhan? Truhan? She'd shown me a photo of her on her phone of a group of the most popular year 7 boys at the boys' grammar cover, at the boys' grammar over the road, and there was Tommy right in the middle. I could tell he was the most attractive one. I mean, he had hair like a boy band star, and was dressed pretty fashionably. So I pointed and said, him, and I guess that was that. Almost 7 years later, I never actually talked to Tommy. I never even really wanted to, probably because I was shy. He was more of an abstract concept. He was hot and he was my crush, and nothing was going to happen between us, and I was perfectly fine with that. I snorted at Pip. Obviously not, Tommy. Why not? You like him. The thought of actually following through on the crush made me feel extremely nervous. Calm down, camera stand. I just shrugged at Pip, and she dropped the discussion. Pip and I started to walk out of the kitchen, and arms and still slung around each other, and into the hallway of Hattie in Jorgensen's fancy country home. People were slumped on the floor in the corridor, in their prom dresses and tuxes. Cups and food started around. Two people were kissing on the stairs, and I looked at them for a moment, unsure whether it was disgusting, or whether it was the most romantic thing I'd ever seen in my life. Probably the former. You know what I want? Pip said as we stumbled into Hattie's conservatory and collapsed onto a sofa. What? I said. I want someone to spontaneously perform a song to declare their love for me. What song? She gave this some thought. Your song from Moulin Rouge, she said. God, I'm sad, gay, and alone. Solid song choice, but not as attainable as a kiss. Pip rolled her eyes. If you want to kiss someone that much, just go talk to Tommy. You've liked him for 7 years. This is your last chance before you go to uni. She might have had a point. If it was going to be anyone, it was going to be Tommy. But the idea filled me with dread. I folded my arms. Maybe I could kiss a stranger instead. Fuck off. I'm serious. No, you're not. You're not like that. You don't know what I'm like. Yes, I do, said Pip. I know you more than anyone. She was right about knowing me and about me not being like that and about tonight being my last chance to confess the crush I'd had for 7 years and the last chance to kiss someone while I was still a school kid, while I had a chance to feel the teenage dream excitement and youthful magic that I'll be quiet out there. Freaking, I love my dogs, but that was interrupting the vibe of the scene. So I'm gonna start over on that paragraph. She was right about knowing me and about me not being like that, and about tonight being my last chance to confess the crush I'd had for 7 years, and the last chance to kiss someone while I was still a school kid. I had a chance to feel the teenage dream, excitement, and youthful magic that everyone else seemed to have a little taste of. It was my last chance to feel that. So maybe I would have to bite the bullet and kiss Tommy after all. Romance. I loved romance. Always had. I loved Disney, especially the underappreciated masterpiece that is The Princess and the Frog. Side note, I do like that movie as well. As a matter of fact, I got a few of the song. I got one song on there, that being Professor Facilier's song, Friends on the Other Side. But I will also say Tatiana's song, Almost There, is a really good song. And you know what I gotta say about this movie? It's nice to know that this is a character that many people could relate to compared to princesses of the past. With the exception of maybe Mulan, because she is a strong female character in her own right in that regard, in her own regard. Yeah. Getting back into the series, into the book, I loved fan fiction, even fanfics for the characters I knew nothing about, except I knew nothing. Yeah, I fucked it up. I loved fan fiction, even fanfics for characters I knew nothing about, but Draco slash Harry or Akora slash Asami were my comfort read were my comfort reads. I loved thinking about what my own wedding would be like in my own it would be like. A barn wedding with autumn leaves and berries, fairy lights and candles, my dress lacy and vintage looking, my soon to be spouse crying, my family crying, me crying because I'm so happy, just so happy that I have found the one. I just loved love. I knew it was soppy, but I wasn't a cynic. I was a dreamer, maybe who liked and yearned and believed in the magic of love, like the main guy from Moulin Rouge, who runs away to Paris to write stories about truth, freedom, beauty, and love, even though he should probably be thinking about getting a job so he can actually afford to buy food. Yeah, definitely me. I probably got this from my family. The Wars believed in forever love. My parents were just as in love now as they were back in 1991 when my mom was a ballet teacher and my dad was in a band. I'm not even joking. They were literally the plot of Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy, but with a happy ending. And I know that song and I like that song. Yes, I do like some Avril Lavigne stuff. Both sets of my grandparents were still together. My brother married my brother married his girlfriend when he was 22. None of my close relatives have been divorced. Even most of my older cousins had at least partners, if not whole families of their own. I hadn't even been in a relationship. I hadn't even kissed anyone. Jason kissed Karishma from my history class on his Duke of Edinburgh expedition and dated a horrible girl named Amy for a few months until he realized she was a knob. Pip kissed Millie from the academy at a house party and also Nicola from our youth theater group at the dress rehearsal for Dracula. Most people had a story like that. A silly kiss with someone they sort of had a crush on, or didn't really, and it didn't necessarily go anywhere, but that was a part of being a teenager. Most people aged 18 have kissed someone. Most people aged 18 have had at least one crush, even if it's on a celebrity. At least half of everyone I knew had actually had sex, although some of those people were probably lying, or they were just referring to to a really terrible to a really terrible hand job or touch of a boob. But it didn't bother me because I knew my time would come. It did for everyone. You'll find someone eventually. That was what everyone said, and they were right. Teen romances only worked out in movies anyway. All I had to do was wait, and my big love story will come. I would find the one. We would fall in love, and I'd live my happily ever after. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick drink of my tea. Pip, Jason, and me. Georgia has to kiss Tommy, Pip said to Jason as we slumped down next to him on his sofa in Hattie's living room. Jason, who was in the middle of a game of Scrabble on his phone, frowned at me. Can I ask why? Because it's been 7 years and I think it's time, said Pip. Thoughts? Jason Farley Shaw was our best friend. We were kind of a trio. Pip and I went to the same all-girls school and met Jason through the annual school plays, where they'd always get a few of the boys from the boys' school to join in. Then, after a couple of years, he joined our school, which was mixed in the sixth form, and joined our youth theater group too. No matter what production we put on, whether it was a musical or a play, Jason usually played essentially the same role, a stern older man. This is mostly because he was tall and broad, but also because, at first glance, he did go off a bit of a strict dad vibe. He'd been Javert in Les Mis, Prospero in the Tempest, and the angry father, George Banks, in Mary Poppins. Despite this, Pip and I had quickly learned that underneath his stern exterior, Jason was a very gentle, chilled out dude who seemed to enjoy our company more than anyone else's. With Pip being a harbinger of chaos and my tendency to feel worried and awkward about pretty much everything, Jason's calmness balanced us out perfectly. Uh, Jason said, glancing at me. Well, it doesn't really matter what I think about it. I don't know if I want to kiss Tommy, I said. Jason looked satisfied and turned it back to Pip. There you go. Case closed. You have to be sure about these things. No! Come on! Pip squawked and turned to face me. Georgia, I know you're shy, but it's totally normal to be nervous about crushes. This is literally the final chance you have to confess your feelings, and even if he rejects you, it doesn't matter, because he's going to uni on the other side of the country. I could have pointed out that this meant a relationship would be pretty difficult should he respond positively, but I didn't. Remember how nervous I was telling Alicia I liked her? Pip continued. And then she was like, sorry, I'm straight, and I cried for like 2 months. But look at me now. I'm thriving. She kicked one leg into the air to make her point. This is a no consequence scenario. Jason was looking at me through all of this. He was trying to suss out how I felt. I don't know, I said. I just don't know. I guess I do like him. A flash of sadness crossed Jason's features, but then it was gone. Well, he said, looking down at his lap, I guess you should just do what you want. I guess I do want to kiss him. I said. I looked around the room and, sure enough, Tommy was there, standing with a small group of people near the doorway. He was just far enough away that I couldn't quite focus on the details of his face. He was just the concept of a person, a blob, a generic attractive guy, my 7 year crush. Seeing him so far away and blurry took me right back to being in year 7, pointing at a photo of a boy I thought was probably attractive, and that made up my mind. I could do this. I could kiss Tommy. I'd had times where I'd wondered whether I'd end up with Jason. I'd had times where I'd wondered whether I'd end up with Pip too. If our lives were in a movie, at least two of us would have got together. But I'd never felt any romantic feelings for either of them, as far as I could tell. Pip and I had been friends for almost 7 years. From day one of year 7, when we'd been sat together in our homeroom seating plan and forced to tell each other 3 interesting facts about ourselves, we learned we both wanted to be actors, and that was it. Friends. Pip was always more sociable, funnier, and generally more interesting than me. I was the listener, the supportive one who she'd had when she'd had her MIA crisis at the age of 14, and then her I don't know what to do acting or science crisis last year, and then her I really want to cut my hair short but I'm scared crisis several months ago. Jason and I had met each other later, but we bonded faster than I'd ever thought possible, given my poor track record for forming friendships. He was the first person I met who I could sit quietly with and it wouldn't feel awkward. I didn't feel like I had to try to be funny and entertaining with him. I could just be me, and he couldn't dislike me because of it. We'd all had what felt like 1,000 sleepovers with each other. I knew exactly where the broken springs were in Pip's bed. I knew that Jason's favorite glass in my cupboard was a faded Donald Duck one I got at Disneyland when I was 12. Moulin Rouge was the movie we always watched when we hung out. We all knew it word for word. There was never any romantic feelings between Pip, Jason, and me. But what we did have, a friendship of many years, was just as strong as that, I think. Stronger, maybe, than a lot of couples I knew. Truth or Dare. In order to get me physically closer to Tommy, Pip forced us to join a group game of Truth or Dare, which both Jason and I protested against, but Pip obviously won. Truth, I said when it was my turn to suffer. Hattie, who was heading the game, grinned evilly and selected a card from the Truth Pack. There must have been about 12 of us, all sitting on the living room carpet. Pip and Jason were sitting on either side of me. Tommy was opposite. I didn't really want to look at him. Pip handed me a crisp from the bowl for support. I gratefully accepted it and stuffed it in my mouth. What's the worst romantic or sexual experience you've had with a guy? A couple of people chorused, ooh. One guy whistled and one girl just laughed one short burst of ha that I found more embarrassing than anything else. Thankfully, I wouldn't see most of the people at the party ever again in my life. Maybe on Instagram, but I muted most people's Instagram stories and already had a mental list of all the people I was going to unfollow after A-level results day. There were a few people at school this time that me, Pip, and Jason got along with. People we'd sit with at lunch. A little gang of theater kids. We'd hang out in the school play season. But I knew already that we would all go to uni and forget about each other. Pip, Jason, and I would not forget about each other though, because we were all going to Durham University in October, as long as we got the grades for it. This actually hadn't been planned. We were a trio of high achieving nerds, but Jason had failed to get into Oxford, Pip had failed to get into King's College London, and I was the only one for whom Durham was actually my first choice. I thanked the universe every day that it worked out like that. I needed Pip and Jason. They were my lifeline. That's not fair, Jason immediately interjected. Come on, that's way too personal. There were cries of outrage from the rest of our peers. People didn't give a shit about it being personal. You must have something, droned Heidi in her super posh accent. Like everyone's had a terrible kiss or something by now. I was very uncomfortable about being the center of attention, so I thought it'd be better to just get this over with. I never kissed anyone, I announced. When I said it, I didn't think I was saying anything particularly odd. And this wasn't a teen movie. Virgin shaming wasn't really a thing. Everyone knew that people did these things when they were ready, right? But then the reactions began. There were little gasps, a pitying "aww." Some of the guys started laughing, and one of them coughed the word virgin. Haiti brought her hand to her mouth and said, horrified, "Oh my god, seriously?" My face started to burn. I wasn't weird. There were lots of 18-year-olds who hadn't kissed anyone yet. I glanced at Tommy, and even he was looking at me with sympathy, like I was a little kid, like I was a child who didn't understand anything. It's not that unusual, I said. Hattie pressed her hand to her heart and stepped on her bottom lip. You're so pure. You're so pure. A guy leaned over and said, You're like 18, right? I nodded at him and he said, Oh my god. Like I was disgusting or something. Was I disgusting? Was I ugly and shy and disgusting? And that was why I hadn't kissed anyone yet? My eyes were starting to water. Alright, Pip snapped. You can all stop being dickheads right the fuck now. It is weird, though, said a guy I knew from my English class. He was addressing Pip. If you gotta admit it's weird, you gotta admit it's weird to have got to 18 without having kissed anyone. That's rich coming from a guy who admitted to having a wank over the princesses in Shrek 3. There were cackles of glee from the group, momentarily distracted from laughing at me. While Pip continued to berate our classmates, Jason very suddenly took hold of my hand and pulled me up and out of the room. Once we were in the corridor, I was about to cry, so I said I needed to pee and went downstairs to find the loo. When I reached the bathroom, I examined my reflection, rubbing under my eyes so my mascara didn't smudge. I swallowed the tears down. I wasn't going to cry. I did not cry in front of anybody. I hadn't realized. I hadn't realized how behind I was. I'd spent so much time thinking that my one true love would just show up in one day. Just show up one day. I had been wrong. I had been oh so wrong. Everyone else was growing up, kissing, having sex, falling in love, and I was just a child. And if I carried on like this, would I be alone forever? Georgia! Pip's voice. I made sure my tears were gone by the time I exited the bathroom, and she didn't suspect a thing. They're so fucking dumb, she said. Yeah, I agreed. She tried to smile warmly at me. You know you'll find someone eventually, right? Yeah. You know you'll find someone eventually. Everyone does. You'll see. Jason was looking at me with a sad expression on his face. Pitying, maybe. Was he pitying me too? Am I wasting being a teenager? I asked them, and they told me no. My best friends would, but it was too late. This was the wake-up call I needed. I needed to kiss someone before it was too late. And that someone had to be Tommy. Tommy. I let Pip and Jason go back downstairs to get drinks, using the excuse that I wanted to get my jacket from one of the guest bedrooms because I was cold. and then I just stood in the dark corridor trying to breathe and collect my thoughts. Everything was okay. It wasn't too late. I wasn't weird or disgusting. I had time to make my move. I located my jacket and also found a bowl of cocktail sausages balanced on a radiator, so I picked those up too. As I walked back down the corridor, I saw that another bedroom door was ajar, so I peered inside, only to get an absolute eyeful of someone very clearly getting fingered. It sent a sort of shockwave through my spine. Like, wow, okay. I forgot people actually did that in real life. It was fun to read about around it was fun to read about in fanfics and see in movies, but the reality was kind of just like, oh, yikes, I'm uncomfortable, get me out of here. That aside, surely you'd think to shut the door properly if someone was going to put a body part inside of you. It was hard to picture myself in a situation like that. Honestly, I loved the idea in theory, having a sexy little adventure in a dark room in someone else's house with someone you'd been on and off flirting with for about a couple of months. But the reality, having to actually touch genitals with someone, ew. I gave it one. I gave. I guess it took time for people to be ready for stuff like that. And yes, you'd have to find someone you felt comfortable with. I never even interacted with anyone I wanted to kiss, let alone someone I wanted to. I looked down at my bowl of cocktail sausages. Suddenly I was not very hungry anymore. And then a voice broke out in silence the second time. Yup, said the voice, and I looked up and toward there was Klingons. This was the first time I ever had to talk to Tommy in my life. If we had him a lot closer, if we seen him a lot, obviously the yeah. So, mm, oh, where did I just? Yeah, I was right here. Yeah, and then let's see. I'll just go back to this one paragraph that I know is at. I looked down at my bowl of cocktail sausages. Suddenly, I was not very hungry anymore. And then a voice broke in the silence around me. Yes, said the voice, and I looked up. And there was Tommy. This was the first time I had talked to Tommy in my life. I'd seen him a lot, obviously, at the at the few house parties I'd been to. Sometimes as the school date when he joins our school for uh, sixth sixth form. We didn't take we didn't take any of the same subjects, but we occasionally parallel passed them in the corridor. Hold on a second, I'm feeling a little bit tired. Hold on a second. Anyway, yeah, right. I looked down at my bowl of cocktail sausages. Suddenly, I was not very hungry anymore. And then a voice broke the silence around me. Hey, said the voice, and I looked up, and there was Tommy. This was the first time I had talked to Tommy in my life. I'd seen him a lot, obviously. At the few house parties I'd been to, sometimes at the school gate, when he joined our school for sixth form. We didn't take any of the same subjects, but we occasionally passed in the corridor. I'd always felt the sort of nervous when he was in nearby. I figured that I figured this was because of the crush. I didn't really know how I was supposed to act around him. Tommy pointed at the bedroom. Is anyone in there? I think my son. I think my coach's son. I don't think sometimes that um uh, I think someone's getting fingered in there. I said, hopefully not loud enough for the people in question to hear. Be yeah, she. Yeah, mm, alright, let's see here. Yeah, Tommy dropped his hand. Oh, right, okay, then Uno, I guess 19, 19 at that. 19 at them, yeah. Alright, see here. There was a pause. We stood awkwardly outside the door. We couldn't hear the sound of two people inside the bedroom, but just knowing it was happening so we were both aware of it made me want to cry. Hmm. Yeah, okay. Let's see here. There was a pause. We stood awkwardly outside the door. We couldn't hear the two people inside the bedroom, but just knowing it was happening and we were both aware of it, mismanaging me want to die. How are you? He asked. Oh, I said, holding up a bowl of sausages. I have sausages. Tommy nodded. Gosh, pepper for you. Uh, what? Mm. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I actually got that. Got it messed up. Saying, it looked nice, really rolling down. Is this really rolling down? Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, I had him, uh, hauling boxes up the creek somewhere up until, it's time to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, hmm, how are you? I already said that. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, we'll just go ahead and read it anyway, because I already said it. How are you? He asked. Oh, I said, holding my breath for a bowl for sausages. I have sausages, Tommy nodded. Good for you. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I apologize about the background noise. Sorry about that. Can't remember. Now then, wait, what? Hold on a second. There we go. Alright. Da-da-da-da. Wait. Whatever. If I mess up doing this part 1, I'll take this down and reread this. Yeah, but anyway. So they're standing outside the door, and now he's gonna try to talk to her. Gonna talk to the character we are in first person view of. We are basically reading the literal mind of. That's what we're doing. How are you? He asked. Oh, you know, I said, holding up the bowl of sausages. I have sausages. Tommy said. Tommy nodded. Good. Good for you. Thanks. You look really nice, by the way. My prom dress was sparkly and lilac, and I felt fairly uncomfortable in it. Compared to my usual pattern, not knits and high-waisted jeans, but I thought it looked nice, so it was good to have confirmation. Thanks. Sorry about the truth or dare game, he chuckled. People can be such twats. For the record, I didn't have my first kiss until I was 17. Really? Yeah. I know it's kind of late, but, it's better to wait until it feels right, isn't it? Yeah, I agreed. But I was just thinking that if 17 was late, then must be basically geriatric. This all felt weird. Tommy had been my crush for 7 years. He was talking to me. Why wasn't I jumping for joy right now? Thankfully, at that moment, my phone buzzed. I retrieved it from my bra. Remember, I am reading from the viewpoint of a female character, as if Georgia is more. I mean, that should have been obvious. Georgia is more of a girl's name than a boy's name, right? Anyway, Felipa Quintana. Excuse me, but where are you? Haha, sex. I said sex accidentally. And butts. Haha, butts. Jason Farley Shaw. Please return before Pip has another glass of wine. Filipa Quintana. Stop subtweeting me in our own group chat while I'm standing right next to you. Jason Farley Shaw. For real though, Georgia, where are you? I quickly switched my phone screen off before Tommy thought I was ignoring him. Uh, I began not quite knowing what I was going to say before I said it. I held up my oversized denim jacket. If you're cold, you can borrow my jacket. Tommy looked at it. He seemed unfazed that it was technically a girl's jacket, which was good because if he protested, that probably would have been it for my crush. You sure? He asked. Yeah. He took the jacket and put it on. It made me feel a bit uncomfortable, just knowing that some guy I really didn't know very well was wearing my favorite jacket. Shouldn't I have been pleased about this development? I was just going to go sit by the fire for a bit, said Tommy, and he slouched against the wall, leaning ever so slightly toward me with a smile. Do you want to come with? That was when I realized he was trying to flirt with me, that this was working. I was actually going to get to kiss Tommy. Okay, I said. Let me just message my friends. Georgia War. Hanging out with Tommy, lol. School romance was on my list of favorite fan fiction tropes. I also loved Soulmate AU, Coffee Shop AU, and Hurt/Comfort and Temporary Amnesia. I figured school romance was most likely one that would happen to me, but now that the possibility of it happening was more than zero, I was freaking out. Like, heart racing, sweating, hands shaking, freaking out. This was what crushes felt like, so this was normal, right? Everything was totally normal. Kissing. When we got to the fire, we were the only people there. No kissing orgy in sight. I picked a seat near the blanket pile and Tommy sat next to me, balancing a beer bottle on his chair arm. What would happen now? Would we just start making out? God, I hoped not. I hoped not. I just heard a vibrating. I think that was my phone vibrating. What the heck? Whatever. Anyway, a kiss had to happen anyway. That much was clear to me. This was my last chance. So, Tommy said. So, I said. I thought about how I was going to initiate the kiss. In fanfics, they just say, can I kiss you? Which is very romantic to read, but sounded so embarrassing in my head when I imagined saying it out loud. In movies, it just seems to sort of happen without any discussion beforehand, but both parties go into it knowing exactly what's happening. He nodded at me and I glanced at him, waiting for him to speak. You look really nice, he said. You said that already, I said, smiling awkwardly. But thanks. Sweery didn't really speak much at school, he continued. As he spoke, he put his hand on the top of my chair, so his hand was weirdly close to my face. I don't know why that made me feel so uncomfortable. His skin was just there, I guess. Well, we weren't really friends with the same people, I said. Yeah, and you're pretty quiet, aren't you? I couldn't even deny that. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Now that he was so close, I was struggling to even see what exactly I'd been attracted to for 7 years. I could tell that he was conveniently attractive, like you can tell pop stars or actors are attractive, but nothing about him really made me feel butterflies. Did I know what butterflies felt like? What exactly was I supposed to be feeling right now? He nodded as if he already knew everything about me. That's alright, quiet girls are nice. What was that even supposed to mean? Was he being creepy? I couldn't tell. I was probably just nervous. Everyone gets nervous around their crushes. I glanced towards the house, feeling like I didn't really want to look at him anymore, and I spotted two figures hovering in the conservatory watching us. Pip and Jason. Pip immediately waved at me, but Jason looked kind of embarrassed and pulled Pip away. They both wanted to see what would happen with Georgia and her 7-year crush. 7-year crush. Tommy leaned a little closer to me. We should talk more or something. I could tell he didn't mean that. He was just stalling. I knew what was supposed to happen next. I was supposed to lean in, nervous but excited, and he'd brush my hair out of my face, and I'd look at him beneath my eyelashes, and then we'd kiss, gently, and we'd be one. Georgia and Tommy, and then we'd go home, giddy and happy, and maybe it'd never happen again. Or maybe he'd message me, and we'd decide to go on a date, just to see what would happen, and at the date we would decide to try going out, and on our third date, we would decide to be a boyfriend and girlfriend. And a couple of weeks after that, we would have sex. And while I was in university, he would text me good morning and come to visit every other weekend. And after university, we would move in together in a little flat by the river and get a dog. And he'd grow a beard. And then we would get married. And that would be the end. That was what was supposed to happen. I could see every single moment of it in my head. The simple route, the easy way out. I could do that, couldn't I? If I didn't, what would Pip and Jason say? It's okay, he said. I know you haven't kissed anyone before. The way he said it was like he was talking to a newborn puppy. Okay, I said. It irritated me. He was irritating me. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? A cute little moment in the dark? Hey, look, he said, a pitying smile on his face. Everyone has a first kiss eventually. It doesn't mean anything. It's okay to be new at, like, romance and all that. New at romance? I wanted to laugh. I've been studying romance like an obsessive researcher. Romance would be my mastermind topic. Yeah, I said. Georgia. Tommy leaned in close and then it hit me. The disgust. A wave of absolute unbridled disgust. He was so close I feel like I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash a glass and throw it at the same time. My fist tightened on the arms of my chair, and I tried to keep looking at him, keep moving towards him, kiss him, but he was so close to me and it felt horrific. I felt disgusted. I wanted this to end. It's okay to be nervous, he said. It's kind of cute, actually. I'm not nervous, I said. I was disgusted by the thought of him near me, wanting things from me. That wasn't normal, was it? He put his hand on my thigh, and that's when I flinched, shoving his hand away and sending his drink hopping off the side of the chair, and he swung forward to grab it and fall out of his seat, right into the fire pit. On fire. There had been signs. I'd missed all of them because I was desperate to fall in love. Luke from year 5 was the first. He did it via a note in my coat pocket during playtime. To Georgia, you're so beautiful, will you be my girlfriend? Yes, no from Luke. I ticked no and he cried all through math class. In year 6, when all the girls in my class decided they wanted boyfriends, I felt left out, so I asked Luke if he was still up for it. But he was already going out with Ayesha, so he said no. All the new couples played together on the climbing frame during the year-end barbecue, and I felt sad and lonely. Noah from the school bus was the second, in year 9, although I'm not sure he counts. He asked me out on Valentine's Day because that was what people did on Valentine's Day. Everybody wanted to be in a couple on Valentine's Day. Noah scared me because he was loud and enjoyed throwing sandwiches at people, so I just shook my head at him and went back to staring out the window. The third was Giant from the boys' school, year 11. A lot of people thought he was extremely attractive. We had a long conversation at a house party about whether Love Island was a good show or not, and then he tried to kiss me when everyone was drunk, including both of us. It would have been so easy to go for it. It would have been so easy to lean in and do it, but I didn't want to. I didn't fancy him. But the fourth turned out to be Tommy, who I knew from school and who looked like Timothy Chalamet, and I didn't really know him that well. But this was the time that broke me a little, because I thought I really liked him, but I couldn't do it, because I didn't fancy him. My 7-year crush on him was entirely fabricated. A random choice from when I was 11, and a girl held up a photo and told me to choose a boy. I didn't fancy Tommy. Apparently, I haven't, I hadn't ever fancied anyone. I screamed. Tommy screamed. His entire arm was on fire. He rolled over and suddenly Pip flew out of nowhere, grabbing a blanket and saying, holy shit, over and over, and I was just standing over him, watching him burn. The first thing I felt was shock. I felt frozen, like this wasn't really happening. The second thing I felt was anger about my jacket. That was my favorite fucking jacket. I should never have given it to some boy I barely knew. Some boy I didn't even like. Jason was there too, asking Tommy if he was hurt, but he was sitting up and shaking his head, pulling off the ruins of my favorite jacket, looking at his unscathed arm and saying, "What the fuck?" And then he stared at me and said it again. "What the fuck?" I looked down at this person I had picked at random from a photo and said, "I don't like you like that. I'm really sorry. You're nice, but I don't like you like that." Jason and Pip both turned to me in unison. A little crowd was starting to form. Our classmates wandering outside to see what the commotion was about. "What the fuck?" said Tommy a third time, before he was swarmed by his friends coming to see if he was okay. I was just staring at him, thinking that was my fucking jacket in 7 years and I never liked you at all. "Georgia," said Pip. She was next to me, pulling on my arm. "I think it's time to go home." Alright? Final chapter of part 1. Loveless. "I never liked him," I said in the car as we pulled up outside Pip's house and I cut the engine. Pip was next to me. Jason was in the back. 7 years and I just lied to myself the whole time. They were both being weirdly silent, like they didn't know what to say. In a horrible way, I almost blamed them. Pip, anyway. She'd been the one pushing me to do this. She'd been teasing me about Tommy for 7 years. No, that was unfair. This wasn't her fault. "This is my fault," I said. "I don't understand," said Pip, gesturing wildly. She was still fairly tipsy. "You, you've had a crush on him for years." Her voice got quieter. "This was your big chance." I started laughing. It's wild how long you can trick yourself and everyone around you. The door to Pip's house opened, revealing her parents in matching dressing gowns. Manuel and Carolina Quintana were just another of the perfectly in love, incredibly romantic backstory couples I knew. Carolina, who'd grown up in Papayan, Colombia, and Manuel, who'd grown up in London when Manuel went to visit his dying grandma in Papayan when he was 17. Carolina was literally the girl next door, and the rest was history. These things just happened. "I've never had a crush on anyone in my entire life," I said. It was all sinking in. I never had a crush on anyone. No boys, no girls, not a single person I ever met. What did that mean? Did it mean anything? Or was I just doing life wrong? Was there something wrong with me? Can you believe? Can you believe that? There was a pause again before Pip said, "Well, it's fine, man. You know you'll find someone." "Don't say it," I said. "Please do not say it." So she didn't. You know, the idea, the idea of it is nice. The idea of liking Tommy and kissing Tommy and having some cute little moment by the fire after prom, that's so nice. That's what I wanted. I felt myself clench the steering wheel. But the reality disgusts me. They didn't say anything. Even Pip, who'd always been a chatty drunk. Even my best friends couldn't think of a single comforting word. Excuse me. "Well, this has been a good night, right?" Pip slurred as she stumbled out of my car. She held the front passenger door open and pointed dramatically at me, the street lamps reflecting in her eyes. "You! Very good! Outstanding! And you!" She prodded Jason in the chest as he moved into the front seat. "Excellent! Really excellent work!" "Drink water," said Jason, patting her on the head. We watched her walk up to her front door and get gently chastised by her mum for being drunk. Her dad waved at us, and we waved back. And then I started the engine and we drove away. It could have been a good night. It could have been the best night of my life if I'd actually had a crush on Tommy. The next stop was Jason's. He lived in a house built by his dads, who were both architects. Rob and Mitch had met at university. They were doing the same course and ended up competing for the same architecture apprenticeship. Rob won, which he claims he earned, but Mitch always claims he let Rob win because he liked him. When we arrived, I said, "Most people our age have kissed someone." And he said, "That doesn't matter." But I knew it did. It mattered. It was not random that I was the one who was falling behind. Everything that had happened that night was a sign that I needed to try harder, or I would be alone for the rest of my life. I don't feel like a real teenager, I said. I think I failed at it. And Jason clearly didn't know what to say to that, because he said nothing. Sitting in my car on the driveway of my family home, the ghost of a boy's hand on my thigh, I made a plan. I was going to university soon. A chance to reinvent myself and become someone who could fall in love. Someone who would fit in with my family, with people my age, with the world. I'd made a load of new friends. I'd joined societies. I'd get a boyfriend. Or a girlfriend even. A partner. I'd have my first kiss, and I'd have sex. I was just a late bloomer. I wasn't going to die alone. I was going to try harder. I wanted forever love. I didn't want to be loveless. And that is the end of the book's part 1. Yeah, I know it's very short, but also, I mean, dude, it's pretty late, and I'm pretty sure people want to go to sleep right now. But the stream will be up for anybody that wants to watch this. So, of course, tomorrow night we will be reading part 2 of Loveless. I don't know how much of it I'll be reading. Probably half of it, because I mean, from what I've been seeing here. Part 2 goes from page 33 so yeah, from 33 to 183, so that's 150 pages that I'd have to read there. So yeah, we're gonna save that one for tomorrow. We're gonna save that one for tomorrow night. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.